Welcome Pre-AP English 2 student. The purpose of this video is to give you a little bit of information about claims and evidence. A big part of the summer reading assignment is being able to identify and claims in an author's text, and also be able to identify different types of evidence. In addition, we want you to be able to look at how specific pieces of evidence are used in the text to support claims. So really, we want to make sure that you've got that basic information so that you can feel successful in the summer assignment. The purpose of this video is not to go through the entire summer assignment. If you have specific questions about the summer assignment, you'll want to email any of the teachers who are listed on the front page of the assignment. A copy of the assignment can be found on onwravens.net. If you go to student information, there's a tab called AP Summer Assignments, and it is listed right in there. So with that being said, we're going to move right ahead to the main purpose of the video. First thing we'd like you to know is that a claim is simply just an author's statement of opinion. And when you have very simple texts, where the authors are coming right out and saying their claims in a very transparent way, they're very easy to identify. However, in the summer reading book, the author does not always come right out and say, hey, I think this, and you have to dig a little bit more to figure out what are the author's claims versus what are some claims of other people the author's citing. So the 3 tests that we would like you to apply to your summer reading book to figure out if something is a claim would be: the first blue sub-bullet is, could you put I believe in front of that statement? If you can do that, if it's past the first test, move on to test number 2. The second would be, can you argue for or against? Are there at least 2 different sides to the claim? Again, if you feel like the claim, what you believe might be a claim, past that, then you go to the third test. And then finally, is the statement of opinion, or is that statement something that somebody is owning, whether it's the author of the text or somebody that the author is citing? Note that in the summer assignment, we are asking you to identify author's claims, not just any claim that you find, just the author's claims. The other thing that you might want to note is that in any particular text, there can be tons and tons of claims. We want you to identify the claims that are most important, what we call key claims. And really, you identify that something is a key claim by a couple simple things. One of them is if the claim is repeated or refined. And many times, a claim is refined and supported by evidence. Which leads us to our next topic, which is different types of evidence. There are many, many different types of evidence that authors use to support their claims. We're going to identify 4, and these 4 types of evidence we're going to go in a little more detail about. First type of evidence is an example or an anecdote. These are pretty similar. This is either a particular instance, as in an example, that highlights or illustrates an author's claim. An anecdote is just a short story. It can be something as brief as a couple sentences, and this anecdote could be an extended anecdote that goes throughout a chapter, for example. Either way, an anecdote or example illustrates certain points of a claim. So if you are trying to explain to people why driving safely is an important thing to remember, you might explain to them a time that you weren't paying attention to the road and you ended up hitting another car. And that particular experience that you relay would be an anecdote. The second type of evidence we'd like to identify is a definition. Obviously, everybody knows the definition is the meaning or the significance of a word, a phrase, a concept, an idiom perhaps. That first sub-bullet on your screen there, a dictionary definition, according to this, those are not the type of definitions that you're going to see in the text that we're going to be reading. That's a little simple. The second sub-bullet on your screen is really what you want to look for. And in a nonfiction text like your summer reading book, an author often takes some time to define concepts, sometimes are concepts that are new to the readers, and other times they're concepts that are very known to the reader, but the author's defining it in a particular way to set up a point. So you might say, hey, when I talk about love, this is what I mean. And even though it's not a new concept to people, you might be finding it in a particular way to set up your next point. So that would be a definition. Next up, we have statistics, and people are pretty quick to say, "Oh, statistics, that's numbers," and that's only half of the definition. The other half of the definition of statistics would be that it has to be computed from a sample. So the example on your screen, in 2012, over 10,000 people died in drunk driving crashes, one every 51 minutes. We have two stats, and then we just have one fact. The fact that this happened in 2012, that's just a year. Now, a year is a numerical piece of information, but the year itself isn't from a sample. It's just a year. So be careful not to just identify every number you see as a stat. The over 10,000 people on the 1 in every 51 minutes, those are stats that are derived from a particular sample. Finally, the last type of evidence I'd like to talk about would be quotations and testimonials. This is when you repeat either word for word or you even paraphrase from an outside source. Many times an author will do that because they want to provide a particular perspective that the author, him or herself, cannot provide. You are more than welcome to take a look at the video that we have posted on your screen here. We have a copy of the PowerPoint. It's in a PDF, so you could click on this link here that you're welcome to look at on onwravens.net, or you could just type this in directly. But this is a great example of a testimonial of a young lady who was personally touched by a drunk driving accident, and she's giving her own perspective on the cost of drunk driving. So that would be something that if you would like to see a more specific example, we would definitely encourage you to do that. Finally, we would like to take a moment to kind of look at an example article and then kind of a little piece of what you're going to be doing in your summer reading assignment. First, what I'm going to have kind of walk you through the article here. It's a really simple little one-page article. I wanted to walk you through some of the key claims and then the evidence that we see to support the claims. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to keep the directions the same here. We're going to underline the author's key claims. Here, just for the ease of seeing things on screen, I'm going to make the boxing. I'm just going to make that highlighting, so it's a little easier for me to do on the computer. Here we have an editorial here, so we definitely have a perspective. We don't have a single author. It's more like the newspaper editorial staff together. But I will just kind of casually refer to the author as a he, just kind of for the sake of ease. So let's take a look here at paragraph A. Psst, hey kid, you might not listen to your folks if they tell you this, so we'll give it a shot. Don't drink and drive. Here we've got a couple sentences that are just kind of opening up the article, kind of an attention grabber. However, when we see this bottom part right here, we see a claim. It's something that the author is owning. It is something that you can argue for and against, although I would hope nobody would really want to argue against it, but you could. And also, again, it's something that you could put "I believe" in front of it. Okay. Notice up here it says that you want to number the author's key claims. So just kind of for sake of ease, just kind of pretend you've got a number 1 there because that's going to be our key claim. Next up, we've got it's prom season, a time for making memories, and regrettably, a time to call attention to the problems of teenage drivers and drinking. Okay. In this particular paragraph, we definitely see a claim right here. I don't know if it's probably the most important claim in the entire article. If we just were going to underline 4 claims and no more than that, I probably wouldn't underline this one because it's not, it's more just kind of a self-contained subclaim. But I wanted to kind of point out that yes, you could argue for and against the idea that prom season is a regrettable time to talk about drinking and driving. Okay, what you'll notice right here is we have a definition. Okay, we have prom season defined as a time for making memories. Okay, so this is something that we could definitely box or in this case highlight. One thing you would want to do when you're looking at evidence is you want to make sure you can tie the evidence to a claim. So if this claim is claim number 1 and this claim is claim number 2, we would label this definition and then mark it as claim number 2 because it's supporting the second claim. Paragraph C, D, and E. It's also time for cold hard facts. Okay? And here we have a whole series of stats. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those. We've got the leading cause of death for teens, 1/4. And then we see children as young as children who drink at a young age are 7 times more likely. Okay, notice here that these would be things we could definitely label stats. Also, the National Highway Safety Admin and the same agency down here are also cited as being the sources. So one could argue that these are also testimonials, but I think the key piece here would be the numbers. So stats is probably your best bet. Looking back at the claims that we already have identified, I would say that these two stats probably align best with your first claim up here, don't drink and drive. Okay? All right. With that, moving on. It can't be said too often that drinking and driving don't mix. Again, we have something. Oops, sorry. Here my computer's going a little wonky on me. We have something that an author could argue for or against. There we go. So we have a claim. This is something, again, that we can underline as a claim. Okay? Next up, we have a number of explanations for why it happens. And then we have the notion that teenage invincibility is false. And then we have all these other factors that play in. In paragraph G here, I oftentimes have students want to label things as claims. And I would argue that paragraph G is primarily commentary, where the author is really kind of explaining why he's thinking what he's thinking, not so much setting forth new claims. Okay. Next up, kudos then to the school district for its recent event that showed 800 students a mock simulation crash to illustrate the dangers and effects. Here we have another piece of evidence. We have a particular instance of a school district that did something to illustrate that it's dangerous to not be careful when you're driving. So some people want to label this as a statistic because it has this number 800 in it. But really, that's just the number of students that are in the school or that watched the crash. It's not from a sample. So this would be a better example of an example or even an anecdote. Earlier when I was moving things around, I think I lost a word. But after the simulation, officials urged students to make good decisions during this celebratory time of the year. Okay, right here, again, we have some more commentary. Okay, yes, the officials are saying make good decisions, but I'm not underlining this as a claim because as you can notice up here, it's asking for the author's claim. And then down here, it's citing the officials believe this. The author and the officials clearly agree, but the author's not owning this claim. Okay, they also got a warning about distracted driving, using a cell phone, texting, so on and so forth. Okay, these are all problems according to this expert. So right here, we have another piece of evidence. Okay, this would be a great example of a testimonial or quotation. Notice here that there's not quote marks around it because the author is paraphrasing it, but we're still citing an expert, so that would fall under the quotation testimonial type of evidence. And lastly, so kid, pay attention to the road. Don't text or phone behind the wheel. Never drink and drive. You could even spread the word to mom and dad. In the middle here, we see 3 related claims. And if you kind of notice, much like an essay you write for English class, we have kind of the thesis, the main claim right up here. And at the very bottom, we have the claim repeated and then also some kind of other subclaims added onto it. This particular piece of evidence right here, this anecdote, I would say would most likely align with these 2 claims. So if we were going through and we were labeling these, we would make sure that we would label this a number that aligned with these claims down here. Okay. just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of reminder if you are watching this video after seeing the lesson the first time during the school year, or if you're a new student to Northwest or didn't get a chance to see this lesson the first time. I wanted to kind of also remind you and show you that on the ONW Ravens website, ONW Ravens, there we go, .net. You can access the assignment under the Students tab, like I was talking about earlier, and we've got summer assignments, and then you'll be able to find all of this information again under the AP English summer assignments. So with that being said, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, there are several teachers whose emails are on the front page of the assignment, and you can email any of those teachers and one of us will get back to you briefly. Okay? Have a great summer and good luck.